Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com. And what I'm going to be doing this video might be kind of long. We're going to create a single page application using Express and web components. So I'm not going to use React or Vue or Angular or Svelte. I'm just going to basically use Express and then use just plain old JavaScript with the web component API. So let's just first so the first step when you're doing a single page application is to create an API. So let's actually get a project folder started. So let's call this project 1. And I'm gonna go into this folder in terminal. And we're going to create a server.js. So touch server.js. And I am going to then do an npm init-y to queue up a npm project. So I'm going to let that do that. Okay, so that's finished. And now I'm going to install all the libraries I plan on using. I plan on using Express because that's going to be our server. I'm going to use Nodamon because I'm going to want to run a dev server. I'm going to want, let's see here, is there anything else I particularly need for this particular project? I'm not using React, so I don't need any of the React stuff. I'm not doing any server-side rendering, so I don't need any views engines. I'm not going to be using URL encoded data, so I don't need method override or any kind of body parsers that aren't already built into Express. So I think that should do the trick for now. Okay, so in that case, I am going to hit enter. Let that install. Oh, even though I did that wrong, so that's gonna fail. Yep, npm I express nodamon. Okay, so that'll install. And let's head into the project. Let's set up some scripts. Okay. Waiting. Oh, I want to go to the package JSON. There we go. Okay, I want to change the scripts. That's fine for test. I don't need this test script. Okay, what I do need is a dev script. And that's going to end up being Nodamon server.js. Okay, save that. And now I'll start building out my server.js because I can do that while that's all installing. So const express. Again, the purpose of this video is not to teach you how to use Express. So if you don't know Express and you don't know what I'm doing, you should watch one of my videos where I introduce Express. But essentially I'm bringing in the library. So const express equals require const require express const, then we have to have our app object equals express. And then once we do that, what I want is my middleware. And in my middleware, I only need two things. I'm going to plan, since I'm doing a single page application, the interaction between my server and my front end is mainly going to be through API calls. So mainly interacting with JSON data. So I need to be able to parse JSON data going through my server. So I'm going to do app.use, so that way it's middleware. And then Express has a function, express.json, which is the JSON parser. So there we go, there's that. I also need my public folder because that's where I'm going to actually store the front end page. So in that case, app.use express.static. Okay, and that's going to be in a folder called public. And there we go. Then there's my routes. I'm not going to create a root route because I'm going to use the public folder for that. So here are my routes. Actually, even before that, let's have my data. Because what we're going to do is I'm just going to do a quick sort of, This is just gonna be a quick like person app. We're just gonna have an array of persons. So const persons equals an empty array, and we'll with our API be able to add data, etc. Okie dokie. So we're gonna create our API routes real quick. So we'll have a get route, app.get, which will be /API. Okay, and what that will do, we'll have it rec res. Okay, and what this will do is just basically return persons. Oh, actually not return persons. Res.send persons. Okay, so that'll just return persons, which then can be used to populate the DOM. Okay, we also want to be able to add persons. So again, this is essentially my show route. Then I need a route for creating a person. Okay, so this will be my create route. Okay, that'll be a post request to /API rec res. And what this will do, it's going to take persons dot push and just push rec dot body into the array. Let's see why the error. Property persons. Any persons dot push. Persons is an array. So why doesn't it look like that? Oh, it needs a comma. There we go. Okay, so we'll push in the array, and then we will res.send persons. Okay, so you'll get the full list of persons back after we've added the new person. Okay, then we'll have an edit route, or an update route, probably more likely. Update route, which will be app.put. Okay, and then that'll be /API /index. Okay, then we have our callback, rec res. Okay, and what that's going to do, it's going to take persons at the rec.params.index. So at that particular index that's submitted in the URL, that particular person will just equal rec.body. Okay, the body that we get from the request. And then we will return, res.send persons. So we're sending back the persons array. At the end, again, the idea is that at the end of each of these routes, we're going to make a request, and then it's going to send us back the updated list, which will then get repopulated to the screen. Okay. And then we need one more, a delete route, which will be app.delete, which will be API /index rec res. Okay, and then this one will just delete the person. So it's the same concept as the previous one, except we're just splicing. So persons.splice. So it'll be rec.params.index is the starting index. We'll take out 1. That'll do that, and then we will send back the new updated array, res.send persons. There we go. Okay, so we got our CRUD routes. That should do everything I needed to do on the server side. I just need my listener. App.listen. Put it on port 3000. And then we have a callback. And that callback will just say console.log listening on port 3000. Save. Okay, so there we go. Our server is created. That's our, and with our API. So that was pretty quick. We created a full CRUD API and a server, and we did that in like 10 minutes. Not bad. Okay. Now we just need to create our front end. So our back end is complete. Now we need to create our front end. So that is going to require me to create a public folder. Let me get that out of the way. So in here, I need to create a new folder. This will be the public folder. Okay, I'm going to keep this pretty simple, so I'm not going to make a whole bunch of subfolders. It's just going to be my index.html. Okay, and we'll have a new file, style.css, and new file, app.js. Because again, since this is a static folder, index.html, essentially, since I don't have a route, the root URL, localhost 3000, will point to that index.html, because it'll pick it up from the static folder, aka public. So in that case, let me scope out that HTML file, HTML5. Okay, good. Okay, we'll call this my persons list. Okie dokie. Let me think about how I want to structure this. I'm kind of making this up on the fly. So my persons list, and then we're going to want a link tag for the CSS. Style.css. Oh, I'm going to bring in milligram just so that way this has like an inherently like already nice look. Okay, so milligram CSS. Here we go. And I'm going to copy this script tag, link tag. Because what I like about milligram is that it just kind of works. You know, I don't have to worry about like a bunch of classes like Bootstrap or Materialize. I just put it in there and it just works. Okay, so there's my link tag, and the last is the script tag, which is going to have our app.js, which is going to have a defer tag because we're going to be doing a lot of DOM stuff in there. Save. Okay. And I'm going to actually try to build this all in JavaScript. Okay, so it's kind of like React, where you're building it all in your JavaScript, but I'm going to use web components. Going to avoid using React, just to kind of just show you that we can. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to have basically everything's going to work out of one web component, which isn't necessarily like the coolest use of web components, but we're just going to call this my app. It's just to show you that this can be done. Okay, so there we go, my app. So there's my HTML page. That's all I need there. Okay, and the rest we'll do from our app.js. So starting with this, so this is our front-end JavaScript now. Okay, so we have our back-end JavaScript, which is a server.js. Again, everything in the static folder is served from the front end, or served to the front end. So this is going to be run in the browser, this app.js. And I want to define that my app component. So I'm going to just do the normal web component stuff, which just means I'm going to create a class, my app, that extends HTML element. Okie dokie. And we're going to create that. We're going to create a constructor. Takes no parameters. And in this constructor, I need to invoke super because it's an extended class, so you always got to do that. And then I want to create a shadow. Do I want to create a shadow DOM? Actually, I will not create a shadow DOM for this situation. Just so you know, if I wanted to, I could create a shadow DOM for this particular element. And what it would do is that the components, like if I were to create CSS inside the component, it wouldn't affect stuff outside of the component, and the CSS outside the component wouldn't affect the stuff inside the component. So just encapsulate it. So if you want to style the component internally and have it kind of not get touched by places where you use it, you can do that, but that's not really, I don't really need to do that right now. Okay, so let's think about how I want to structure this. Okay. Now what I want, we're going to create, well, we'll create some functions of this component that we'll use. But yeah, we'll do that first. So first we're going to create the initial render function. And this render function is going to take in data. Okay, and that data is going to be used to render the template. Okay, so again, we're going to imagine it's going to be the list of people. So we're going to get a list of people. I don't need to decide what those people look like. We'll just say name and age. Keep it simple. Okay, so data is essentially going to be the array of people. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to return a template I'm going to return a template string. Think about how I want to do this. I think I know how I want to do this. I want to return. Okay. I'm going to return we'll just make this the list. Return AUL. Okay, and inside that UL will be a bunch of LIs. So I'm going to use string interpolation, which means these should be backticks. There we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to map over that persons array, except it's not called persons here, it's called data. So I'm going to do data.map value, and then that's going to return a string, and that string is going to be an li with value dot name and value dot age. Okay, and so that's going to create an array of strings. I just want to interpolate that here. I don't want to plop the array. I want to plop it as one big string. So then I'm going to join that array. Okay, and then I'm going to separate each one with a space. Okay, because it'll just basically be li space the next li space the next li space the next li. Okay, so that will create all my li's for every single person in there when I pass the data in. Okay, cool. Now I need to create functions that actually go get that data. Okay, think about how I want to do that. Okay. So eventually we're going to want to render this. And I always forget what the lifecycle function is for web component. So web component lifecycle here, that's what I'm looking for. Connected callback, disconnected callback. Yes, the connected callback is what I'm looking for. Okay. This is where I would want to do that initial AJAX request. Connected callback. Okay, now in this function, what I want to do, okay, is sorry for the beatboxing. Let's see here, connected callback. Here I want to do a fetch, and I'm just going to do a fetch to /API. Okay, I'm going to get dot then. Okay, and we'll get the response, which will then have to be response.json. Okay, then dot then. Then we'll call that JSON. and that will be, we'll store that in a property called this dot actually what I'm going to do is do this. Okay, so then this will become this dot data equals JSON. So we're going to assign it to the object, and then we're going to say this dot render, or actually this dot inner HTML equals this dot render data. Okay, because basically what this is going to do is return this HTML and put it in there. Cool. That should at least get us started. So essentially, just to walk you through this, when we use this my app tag, which we did in the HTML, it's going to initially make this API call, get the list of people, and then pass that into the render function, which then populates it onto the screen. Now we just need to make sure that this is an actual HTML tag. So custom elements dot define. First is the tag, which is my app. It has to have a kebab. So it's like that. And then we have to name the class, which is my app. Cool. Save. Okay, so let me just take a look at my HTML here. So theoretically, when we run this, let's run that server. npm run dev. Let's see how this is doing. And actually, I should probably put some initial data in here. So I'll put the first person, which will be me. Name Alex Merced. Age 34. Okay, so that way, if we get Alex on the screen, then we know this has worked. Okay, and let me just make sure that we interpolated it right there. Name, value, age, good. So let's go over here. Just go to local host 3000. Okay, let's do a Control-Shift-I. Let's just see. It is loading the HTML because we can see my persons list right over here. But let's see here. In promise referencer, data is not defined. Let's take a look, and that is on line 11. Render data. Oh, it's not data. That's right. This dot data. Save. Okay, so let's refresh this. And there you go. Alex Merced 34. So it worked. Okay, we're getting Alex Merced 34 on the screen. Now what we want to do is create a form in which we can add people. So that's our next step in creating this little basic simple single page application. Okay, so let's create a form. Let's go. I'll just do that. Instead of trying to build that all into that one component, we will just create a couple inputs. Okay, so I'm just going to say input type text. Okay, and then this will have name equals name. Okay, and then we have another one with number. Okay, number. Name, and this will be age. Good, and then something will happen when you do a button. Submit, and you'll be able to add those people. Okay. So what I'm going to do is go back to my app.js. I want to store those elements in variables. So I'm going to do that below this. So we're going to say name const name equals document dot query selector. Okay, and this is going to be an input with the attribute of type equals text. There's only one, so it'll definitely grab the right one. And then we'll do the same thing for age. Okay, and this is the one with the number. Okay, cool. So we have those two, so that's easily accessible. Okay. So these are our input fields. Again, just so you can follow along. Now this is going to be my click handler, the event. So basically this handles the clicking of the button. Okay, and this will be const click handler equals. Okay, I don't really need to pass anything in. Okay, and then what this is going to do is that's going to create a new object. So const new person equals an object where the name equals name dot value and the age equals age dot value. Okay. And just for the purposes of testing later, I'm going to console.log new person, so that way I can just make sure that that is doing what I want it to do. And then we're going to make our API call. Fetch. Except this time we're doing a post request because we're posting. So that's going to be URL, which is going to be /API. Then it's method, which is post. Then it is header, which is content type application JSON. Make sure I got all my application JSON content type. I need another capital T right here. I always forget where the capitals are in these headers. Application JSON. Okay, then the body of the request is going to be that new person object. So JSON.stringify. It's because we have to turn it into a JSON string. And what are we turning into a string? The new person object that we created. And then that should do that. And then once that comes back with a response, so dot then response is return respond.json. Okay, then we'll do a dot then after that. What is this? Parentheses belong to? Right, yeah, right there. Okay, so good. Then dot then. Once again, we have JSON. And what I want to do there is do document dot query selector. Let me go back and take a look at my web component and see how I did this. Oh, I got it. Okay. So actually, I should probably store that in a variable as well. Const app equals document dot query selector my app. So that way I can just save myself some time doing this. Okay. So we're going to take my or app dot inner HTML equals app dot render, and the new data is the JSON data that we just got back, because again that API endpoint is returning the updated array, so the updated people. So yes, okay, so when you click on this, it's going to make the post request, post the data, then it'll turn the response into JSON, and then update the component. Cool. So that's that piece of code. Now we just need to get the button to actually do that. So I'm going to go over here and do this the easy way. Okay, on click equals click handler. Okay, save. We'll test this out. So I should be able to add stuff to the list now. Let's refresh. Okay, there's Alex Merced. Add a Steve Jones, who's 55. I hit submit. Let's see here. So it did create the object fine, that's good. Okay, get object 44. Okay, so we did something wrong with the get URL. So URL back up here, where is back into app.js. I think I know what I did wrong. Let's see here, URL/API. Oh, that should be fine. So what's going on here? Object JSON at position 0. Interesting. Let's take a look at this one more time. /API host. It's making a get. Now where am I making a get to? Let's go examine our endpoint. I think it's the server side where we're having a oh, okay, let's go server. So this will be this post route / here. rec.body, which should be that object. We'll console log it just to be safe. Console.log rec.body, CY. And then res.send persons. That should be all fine. Let's hit refresh. Passengers there, some stuff there. Just creating the object. The problem is the API call. Like it's getting it to the server. Let's see here. No, it's not. It's not hitting the server because I don't see the console log there. So let's examine our front-end code. I think this needs to be capitalized. Post content type application /JSON. That looks fine. JSON.stringify, new person. Yes. Is any issue with the URL? Just compare it to our server.js. Post to /API. Yes. Save. Okay, let's try this again. Refresh. Why does it think I'm putting the object in the URL? Because I'm not doing URL encoded data. Application JSON. Let me make sure that I'm doing the headers right. Post sample. Where is my method body? That is all fine. JavaScript here. Is there something wrong with my server routes? No. App.post /API. Okay, what I'm going to do is I am going to pause this for a moment and investigate. Okay, I think I figured it out. I'm pretty sure that what it's thinking is I'm taking this object, because usually the first argument in fetch is the URL. I just always thought you could also include it in the object, but I guess not. So basically the first URL has to be the /API, and then the object with the configuration. Save. Let's try that again. So let's hit submit. Well, let me refresh. Oh, that should be a number. 55. Okay, so the requests happened. So that's good, but it returned undefined as a second item. So let's examine. Okay, so the request came in, but the body was empty. Okay. Why? Because technically, we go to server.js. Here is express.json. Unless the syntax wrong, it's supposed to be uppercase. So let's do a quick Google search on that. Express.json. Okay. Okay, I got all that. Raise, make some request body size, reviver. That's not what I'm asking. Version of Express used to have a lot of middleware bundled with it. Body parser was one of the main middlewares that came with it. With Express 4.0, decided to remove the bundled middleware from Express and make them separate packages. Instead, the syntax changed from app.use express.json to app.use body parser after installing the body parser module back in 4.60 because people wanted to bundle with Express like before. That means you don't have to use body parser anymore. You can use express.json instead, which I have. Fine. Express URL quoted. We have that app.use express.json. We hit the API, the post route, console.log request.body, which came up empty. So it's pushing an empty object into the array. So the question then becomes, why is it not? So here's what I'm going to do. Instead of stringifying it here, I'm going to stringify it up here when I first create the new person variable. So I'm going to do JSON.stringify, so that way it's captured by this console log, and I can make sure that it's stringifying it right. And then I want to want a parentheses around this object. So what this should be doing is stringifying this object and storing that string in new person. So in this case, I only need to put new person here because it'll already be a JSON string. So let's see here. And let's take a look at our console logs to see if this is behaving the way I think it should. So let's refresh. Okay, so we see that our initial GET request is happening just fine. That's this request right here. So we see here, see it made it a request to localhost API. That's all good. Put some stuff there, 55. Okay, it's still not doing what I want it to do. Doesn't seem to be parsing. Console.log. See, it creates the JSON string. That's good. But it doesn't seem to be getting parsed when it gets into the request. Express.json. And see the body is still blank. Okie dokie, I think I figured out why. It's because this needs to be also JSON. So I have to, in headers, I have to pass in an object. Okay, and I don't need a quotation mark there, so I can get rid of that. With all my headers. So content type application JSON save. Okay, so let me hit save there. Okay, so again, headers have to be passed in as a JSON object like this. So that's where I was going wrong. At least that's where I think I'm going wrong. So let me refresh. So we get the first object, 55. No. But let's see here. Still, let's take a look at our example here in the MDN docs. Headers, content type application. Did I misspell headers? Did I write just header? That's probably what I did. Yeah, header. So I'm just going to copy and paste that real quick. There we go. Headers, content type application JSON. See, now you've learned the importance of headers. Yay. Okay, so let's try this again. Okay, so there's the initial API request, 55, and now it works. Good. Okay, yay. Now I can just, now I didn't clear out the form, which I should have done, but I'm not going to worry. I'm not going to be too picky about that now. Cool. So now what I want is to create a button next to each of those that will let me delete it. Okay, so that we need to go back to my component for. Okay, because that's where we render that stuff. Okay. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. So here's the LI. Yeah, LI, and I noticed the LIs never actually close, so that would be good. Let me fix that. /LI. Okay, so that creates this string, which is fine. But what I need is something that's going to add event listeners to each of those LIs. So let me think that through. Okay, and then each of those, what the index should match the index in the array, so the first LI should be 0. So yeah, that should be fine. So let's do this. Let's create another function here. This will be called, we'll just call it listen. Okay, and what this is going to do is that each of these LIs is now going to have a little button next to it called delete. Okay, and then each of these buttons will have a class of delete. Okay, that's how I'm going to identify them. Okay. Cool. Now what listen does is that it's going to do a document dot, so I'm going to make an array called buttons, which equals document dot query selector all. Okay, and then we're going to look for any element with the class delete. Okay, which will just be those buttons. And then we're going to loop over those. So buttons dot for each, and then that's going to be value index equals, so then for each element, so it's going to be value dot add event listener. It's going to be a click event. Then we need a callback. And what this callback does is it's going to create the delete request. So that's going to again fetch. So I'm going to borrow the fetch from before. Save myself some time. Okay, so this should be for the most part just kind of like this one. Copy. That's not what I wanted to do. I want to just copy this. Copy. And we're going to put that back up here and listen. Except now it's going to be a delete request. Okay, and it's going to be slash, this is going to be backticks slash API slash index. Okay, because the index of the LI, the index of the button should match the index of the appropriate element because they're generated in that order. Cool. So that'll do that. Delete requests. There really isn't a body, so I don't need all this. And then that's going to get a response with the new data. So it should just do the same thing. Okay, save. So okay, and then basically after the delete event is revoked, okay, app.html, we also need to do app.listen to add in all those listeners. So basically every time we update the HTML of that main component, we're then going to re-add all those listeners. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. So that way those listeners are always, Control Z. Did I break this? Let me follow this click handler. I think I did. Control Z. There we go. And I just want to copy this one line. Control C. And add that here. Save, and that should work. So refresh. Let me just think about one thing here. I don't think I have that on the initial. Yeah, I need to add it one time here. This dot listen says add the initial listener on that initial piece of information. Because right now this delete button's not going to work. It doesn't have any event. So let me refresh. That change I just made should fix that. Can I delete Alex? No. Why? In promise. Syntax error, unexpected token. Than in JSON at position 0. API 0, I mean that should work. So let's go take a look over here. If we do server.js, we make a delete index res that person would be an empty array. I mean, it made the call to the right URL, API 0, that would be fine. But it says not found. So did I set that up right? App.delete, yes. To API 0, that would be work. I think I need this first slash is the issue. Save. So let's add one. Now let me delete Alex. And let me delete this guy. So that works. And then I can add one. Okay, so yeah, that works. So we have delete. Yay! And then you guys get the point. I would just make another. I would make it like maybe another edit, like an edit button, and you click on the edit button. A form would appear that you can edit it with, and then that you would make the last fetch call. But you guys get the point. So I created a single page application, strictly using very basic use of web components and plain vanilla DOM manipulation. Again, you know, I was not using any particular well-established pattern, which is why I had to do some extra troubleshooting versus like using something like React or Vue, where just kind of like a set path for you. But it's very doable, okay? And you know, I could, if I had more time, I could do a much more prettier sort of layout and style it and do all sorts of fun stuff. But the idea is just to kind of show you sort of literally within this 50 minutes, we created a backend server with technically all your API routes, and we created a front end all using Express. That works nice and smooth. Okay, so yeah, that was pretty much it. Again, this is an alternative versus using like multi-page applications, where you actually have separate pages, but every time you click on a link to the next page, you're making a request to the server for the whole page. So it's a slightly slower, slightly less interactive smooth experience, because you get that flicker every time you go to another page. But yeah, so I mean, that's it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I'll talk to you guys later.